Was there ever a more badass wrestling promotion during the 90s than EC frickin' W? I didn't think so. They were the most hardcore, they were the most badass. But unless you were under a rock during the 90s, or you just weren't around yet, you might not remember too much about them. Lucky for you, I'm here. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and these are the 10 greatest ECW World Champions of all time.
Number 10, Terry Funk. Terry won his first ECW title from Sabu in 1993, though ECW was still a regional territory at the time. What everybody remembers is barely legal 1997, where he defeated both Stevie Richards and the Sandman in a three-way dance early in the night, and then going on to defeat Raven later on, ending his 4-month title reign. This is considered to be one of the most endearing moments in the history of the entire ECW promotion. The images of Terry covered in blood are immortalized in the wrestling documentary Beyond the Mat. It was fitting to say the least, as Terry Funk had been acting as the behind-the-scenes mentor to the majority of wrestlers at ECW. Nice. Number 9, Mike Awesome. Mike Awesome was exactly that. Awesome. He was a good worker, incredibly talented, and he was over with the fans. When he defeated Taz and Masato Tanaka for the title at Anarchy Rules in 1999, that was awesome too. He would then go on a winning streak of 30 successful title defenses before losing the title to Masato Tanaka. Rumor was Mike was supposed to move on to a huge program with Rob Van Dam, but due to an injury on Rob's part, it never happened. He would defeat Tanaka in a rematch, regaining the championship. Unfortunately for him, he would depart ECW for WCW, while still being recognized as the champion, for all the glory that came for being the fat chick thriller and that 70s guy. Number 8, Mikey Whipwreck. Some of us best remember Mikey for beating the Sandman in 1995 to win the ECW title. Even more people might remember Mikey for beating Steve Austin during his brief tenure with ECW. And that's the thing, we always remember Mikey Whipwreck winning. And that's saying something, as he's got to be one of the most prolific underdogs in wrestling history. Then when you add to the equation that he started out as a ring hand, and it was the sharp eyes of Paul Heyman that seen something special in him, so he put him in the ring. After that, to everyone's surprise, he got over in a huge way. It shows you how awesome and how special his title reign really was. Number 7, Just Incredible. After leaving WWE, then WWF, and the truly forgettable gimmick that was Portuguese man of war Aldo Montoya, Just Incredible would show up at ECW and set the promotion ablaze, gaining nuclear heat by attempting to poorly imitate Shawn Michaels. However, what can't be denied is with his defeat of ECW poster boy Tommy Dreamer and capture of the ECW title, he was a great champion. He had major wins over the likes of Raven and the Sandman, not to mention his is the 6th longest reign as champion in the company's history, and is actually considered to be one of the definitive title reigns of ECW. Number 6, Sabu. Sabu was a 2-time ECW champion and was the first to hold the ECW World title and television title simultaneously, which is impressive in and of itself. But just in case you never knew, Sabu was doing hardcore, death-defying high-risk maneuvers before it was even cool. But then what do you expect from the man that introduces himself as homicidal, suicidal, and genocidal all at the same time? Defeating Terry Funk for both of his title reigns, his second title victory perhaps stands out as the most memorable. In a barbed wire match, these two men would subject each other to some of the most violent and bloody moves ever. Though given the fact that his second title reign only lasted 8 days, it's odd that so much would be put into such an unforgettable match. Number 5, Bam Bam Bigelow. Coming in like a fiery wrecking ball in 1996, Bam Bam was a legit badass, an athletic specimen like no other, and an unstoppable powerhouse. It made perfect sense for him to carry the title. After a critically acclaimed program with Shane Douglas, where he started out as Shane's muscle, but over time became a rival, and then finally he would defeat him for the ECW Championship. Though only a one-time champ, the sheer number of successful defenses is incredible, with 12 victorious bouts and a surprisingly brief 45-day reign. A true workhorse of the company, it's things like this that made us saddest after his passing in 2007. Number 4, Raven. When you hear the letters ECW, chances are one of the first wrestlers you think of is Raven. And who can blame you? He was easily the best heel they ever had. The fact that he was a two-time champion, with each run lasting over 100 days, only complimented it. You absolutely love to hate Raven. Using his ness to interfere in matches, and even dragging his opponent's family into the mix, he was so hated and got so much heat, it only made sense he would become the champion. With a big win on Hardcore TV over the Sandman, Raven would put the world on notice, holding the title for nearly 10 months. He would lose the title back to Sandman, but would come back 2 months later at Holiday Hell, recapturing the title and holding it again for an impressive 4 months, one of the most impressive champions in the history of the promotion. Number 3, Taz. Taz in ECW was great. Starting out as the Taz Maniac, he was a top tag team wrestler and even won the tag titles. Unfortunately, in 1995, he suffered a neck injury that took him out of action for almost a year. But once he returned, everyone had no choice but to take notice. Returning with a newfound love of vicious offense and suplexes galore, Taz cut a streak through ECW, even creating his own FTW World title, until finally getting a shot at Shane Douglas, where he would become the legit ECW World Champion, holding it the first time for a very impressive 9 months and defending it in an unmatched 58 times successfully. He would lose the title in a 3-way dance in 1999 before moving on to WWE. However, Taz would come back to ECW for one of the most unique moments in pro wrestling history. Mike Awesome had been ECW champion at the time, but after unexpectedly signing with WCW, a deal was struck whereby Paul Heyman was allowed to briefly bring Taz back from the WWF in order to defeat Mike Awesome for the title and briefly appear on WWE TV as the ECW champion. Number 2, The Sandman. Definitely not the most kid-friendly character on ECW programming, the Sandman's incredibly simple yet wildly over entrance to the ring, complete with open beer, lit cigarette, and kendo stick, had the crowd going nuts before the match even started. His matches and rivalries with the likes of Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, the Dudleys, and others were extreme, high energy, sometimes blood-soaked, and always very entertaining. And that's not even touching his early work as a heelish brute who would even attack his own wife with said kendo stick. He would also evolve the Sandman character, becoming a mega babyface at different points. The Sandman was a force of nature in ECW, the only 5-time ECW champion, and an icon of the hardcore genre that ECW was known for. Number 1, Shane Douglas. The franchise. Was there any doubt about who would be number 1? He's one of, if not the first wrestler you think of when it comes to ECW. Someone who believed in the cause of ECW so much that he won the NWA World title in a '94 tournament in Devon, Pennsylvania, and used the venue and entire show to gain publicity for and to launch Extreme Championship Wrestling. The WWE today recognizes this as the official origin of and starting point for the ECW World Championship. And that's only the beginning. No one dominated the world title scene in ECW like Shane Douglas. He was legitimate and believable, a very talented technical wrestler, defeating legends such as Terry Funk, Sabu, and Bam Bam Bigelow in classic matches that still hold up today. And even though he only held the title 4 times as opposed to the Sandman's 5, Shane's time with the title far surpasses that of the Sandman, as Shane's time with the title is almost double that of the Sandman's. He would wander away from ECW a little bit here and a little bit there, but it was ECW where his best and brightest moments were, and it was ECW that allowed him to be the star that he truly was. One must ask, would ECW even be the chapter in pro wrestling history it is without Shane Douglas? And that's the list. Now, we both know I'm right, but if you feel you need to tell me something else, let me know in the comments. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and I'll be seeing you